The game begins with pawn to e4, and Fischer responds with the Sicilian defense, pawn to c5. The stage is set for one of chess's sharpest openings. Knight to f3 developing naturally, and Fischer plays pawn to d6, signaling the Nxd4 variation is on the horizon. Pawn to d4 attacking the center, and Fischer captures with c takes d4. The game is about to transition into open combat. Knight takes d4 recapturing, and Fischer develops his knight to f6, attacking the e4 pawn immediately. Knight to c3 defending the center pawn, and Fischer plays the signature Nxdorf move, pawn to a6, preparing queenside expansion. Bishop to g5 pinning the knight, and Fischer responds with pawn to e6, releasing the pin but weakening the dark squares slightly. Pawn to f4, Spassky chooses the aggressive English attack setup, preparing a kingside pawn storm. This move supports the center and prepares e5 in some lines. White could have played queen d2 immediately to prepare long castling, but f4 increases the tactical tension and aims for a direct attack on black's king. And here we go. Queen to b6, Fischer is not playing it safe. He's eyeing the b2 pawn, which is a critical weakness in this line. Spassky responds queen to d2, and now Fischer grabs it. Queen takes b2. This is the famous poisoned pawn variation. Black accepts a pawn but walks into a minefield of white's attacking chances. This move defines the entire game and the variation itself. Many players avoid taking this pawn because it allows white dangerous initiative with the queen on the loose, but Fischer was the master of defending difficult positions under pressure. Knight to b3 attacking the queen, forcing it to move. Fischer plays queen to a3, keeping the extra pawn and maintaining maximum tension. Bishop takes f6, Spassky eliminates the defender of the kingside, and Fischer recaptures with g takes f6. This trade is double-edged. White damages black's pawn structure, creating weaknesses around the black king. But black gets the bishop pair and an open g-file for potential counterplay. Spassky could have simply developed with bishop e2, keeping more pieces on the board. But removing the knight increases white's attacking potential and clarifies the position. Bishop to e2 continuing development, and Fischer pushes pawn to h5, beginning his own aggressive plan on the kingside. Black's h-pawn will become a dangerous attacking weapon. Castle's kingside. Spassky gets his king to safety before launching his offensive. Fischer develops knight to c6, bringing more pieces into the game. King to h1, a classic prophylactic move giving the king an escape square and avoiding back-rank tricks. Fischer develops bishop to d7, connecting his rooks. Knight to b1, an unusual retreat, rerouting the knight to better squares via d2. Fischer's queen moves to b4, centralizing and maintaining pressure. Queen to e3, Spassky centralizes his queen, supporting the center and eyeing potential tactics. Fischer strikes in the center with pawn to d5. This is the thematic central break, challenging white's pawn chain. Black could have played more quietly with moves like rook c8 or bishop e7, but d5 is the critical move that opens the position and activates black's pieces. If black doesn't challenge the center now, white's attack will roll forward unopposed. E takes d5, accepting the challenge, and knight to e7. Fischer reroutes his knight toward better squares, preparing to blockade the passed pawn. Pawn to c4, supporting the d5 pawn and restricting black's pieces. Fischer plays knight to f5, an excellent outpost attacking white's queen and eyeing key squares. Queen to d3, stepping aside from the knight's attack. Fischer advances pawn to h4, pushing his h-pawn closer to white's king with menacing intent. Bishop to g4, Spassky activates his bishop, putting pressure on black's position. Fischer retreats knight to d6, a strong central outpost that blockades the d5 pawn. Knight from b1 to d2, completing the rerouting maneuver. Fischer pushes pawn to f5, cramping white's pieces and preparing to open lines on the kingside. Pawn to a3, a quiet move preparing to push the queenside pawns forward. Fischer plays queen to b6, returning to active play and targeting white's position. Pawn to c5, Spassky advances his passed pawn, creating serious threats on the queenside. This pawn becomes a monster, tying down black's pieces. Fischer responds queen to b5, trying to control the situation and prevent further advances. Black could have tried queen to c7 or queen d8, but queen b5 keeps the queen active and centralized, though it allows white's next powerful move. The position is reaching critical mass, where both sides are pushing their advantages to the limit. Queen to c3, a powerful centralization, and Fischer captures f takes g4, eliminating white's strong bishop. But watch this position carefully. Both sides are playing with fire. White's passed pawns on the queenside are rolling forward like tanks. while black's kingside attack with the h-pawn and rook is creating serious threats against white's exposed king. This is the kind of double-edged chess that defines the greatest games. One mistake and the game is over. The tension is unbearable. Pawn to a4 attacking the queen and preparing to create a second passed pawn. Fischer pushes pawn to h3. The h-pawn is knocking on white's door with devastating effect. Takes b5. Spassky sacrifices his queen for 2 pawns. This is the critical decision of the game. White gets 2 dangerous passed pawns and eliminates black's most active piece. Fischer plays h takes g2 check, and the pawn explodes like a grenade next to white's king. King takes g2 is forced. This position is absolutely wild. White has given up the queen, but has massive passed pawns on b5, c5, and d5. Black has rook and minor pieces, but white's pawns are rolling like a freight train. Can Fischer hold this together? The evaluation is on a knife's edge. Rook to h3. Fischer activates his rook with devastating effect, attacking along the 3rd rank and creating immediate threats against white's exposed king. Spassky plays queen to f6, centralizing his most powerful piece and defending while maintaining threats. This is the key battle: black's active pieces versus white's passed pawns. Fischer could have tried rook g8 check to give more checks, but rook h3 is more forcing and creates concrete threats that white must address immediately. Knight to f5 attacking the queen and centralizing. Spassky plays pawn to c6, and the passed pawn advances 1 square closer to promotion. Bishop to c8 trying to blockade the avalanche of pawns. Spassky responds d takes c6, and another pawn disappears as white opens lines and creates new threats. F takes e6, and Fischer is trying to eliminate white's dangerous pawns. Spassky plays rook f1 to e1, activating his last piece and preparing the final blow. Bishop to e7. Fischer develops his last piece, trying to coordinate a defense, but Spassky is ready for the knockout. Rook takes e6, the final devastating blow. Spassky sacrifices the exchange, crashing through on e6 with unstoppable threats. Black cannot prevent the twin threats of queen takes e7 checkmate and advancing the c-pawn to c7. If black takes the rook with bishop takes e6, then c7 and the pawn promotes. If black plays anything else, queen takes e7 is checkmate. Fischer, one of the greatest defenders in chess history, has no answer. He resigned on the spot. This is one of the most spectacular queen sacrifices ever played at the World Championship level. Spassky's passed pawns, supported by perfect piece coordination, proved more powerful than Fischer's extra material. An absolute masterpiece of attacking chess from the Russian grandmaster. 1-0, Spassky.